Have you ever been told not to self-publish your book? I know it may sound a little strange because usually, if an author wants to go through the hybrid publishing or traditional publishing route, they're told to, you know what, you should probably self-publish instead. Rarely do you hear the opposite of not to self-publish your book. Today, I want to tell you the story of when I looked an author in the eye virtually and said, don't self-publish this one. So in this episode, you'll learn why sometimes self-publishing is the wrong choice, what red flags you can watch for, and how hybrid or traditional publishing may actually serve your goals better. This is Your Path to Publish. I'm your host, Zach Christensen. For the past decade, our team has guided authors just like you to find the best path to publish your book, get people excited to buy it even before it launches, and to turn it into the ultimate business card to build your business and your legacy. If you are ready to get your book out of your head and into people's hands, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. So the author I was referring to is a CEO of a growing company. Their days are already packed with meetings, different strategy sessions, meeting with their executive team, and at the end of the day, responding to late night emails. They had an idea for a book, more of a passion project of a book that really didn't have to do anything with their day job, but they wanted to go the self-publishing route because they thought that might be the best path for them, especially since they didn't have the time to shop it around to a publisher. And in addition, they loved the idea of having control and speed, which was why they were not thinking going towards traditional publishing. But as we talked through the reality of self-publishing, it really became clear. It's not just about uploading your manuscript and getting it designed and having all that done prior to that uploading. What it really means is finding and hiring editors, coordinating with the designers, managing the ISBNs and distribution channels of the book. And what may be the toughest part, marketing your book on top of all of that. And for this CEO, it was especially challenging because they didn't want the book to conflict with what their day job was already doing because they had a brand already that they wanted to continue to maintain. So you might be thinking to yourself, this is a bit of a tough situation, and which path would be the best for them to go? Well, for a CEO already running at full speed, that workload was just going to be really a recipe for frustration, might distract them from what they really needed to focus on in their day job, but probably become a disappointing book launch for their book and getting it out there in a way that would best benefit their target readers for their book and benefit them in the long term, because this may be something in the future that they could expand on when their time as CEO and when they wanted to transfer out of that role. So that's when I told them this book is too important for you and your goals for the book to self-publish in the wrong way. How do you know when self-publishing might not be the right fit? Here are the 5 signs that you can review to know if self-publishing isn't the right path for you. So first, you don't have the time to manage the process. If your schedule is already maxed out, adding the responsibilities of a publisher and distributor and getting your book out there can be overwhelming to you. And if you haven't done this before, there is a learning curve. Second, you want professional execution without having to manage the vendors. Self-publishing requires you to coordinate every role, and that's the editing, design, formatting, and distribution. Now, you can hire someone to manage all that, but you may not get the professional level that you want or have the distribution you want because they're just coming in to help manage the process for you. Third, you'd rather focus on being the author, not the project manager. If you thrive in your expertise but dread spreadsheets, contracts, and production schedules, then self-publishing may not align with your strengths that you already have. And frankly, what you want to do as the author. You want to get out there and promote your book, and you may not want to worry about all of the behind the scenes. So you have someone else to manage that. Fourth, you need broader distribution support. Traditional publishers and strong hybrid publishers have that infrastructure in place. They have relationships with sales reps, libraries. They can get your book into foreign rights and foreign markets if it fits and has sold well, and that you'd have to start building all of those relationships from scratch. And those can take time in and of itself and be a full-time job. And then fifth, you're aiming for maximum credibility. Now, just because you self-publish does not mean you don't have credibility. In this case, you want the credibility to have someone to call upon to be able to get your book published and out there without you having to worry about anything and managing the back end. So for some individuals, such as those in medicine or law, or maybe high level in business, the imprint of a publisher can add some legitimacy, and self-publishing may not always provide that, especially if you've reached to the point where you're a high level speaker and you can start going around to some of the conferences where you'll be connecting with fellow CEOs or those in the executive suite. Overall, and for this author that I mentioned, this is where hybrid publishing can be a great solution, especially if you're an author who doesn't have quite the platform for getting your book out there that a traditional publisher would want. Hybrid publishing is the bridge between doing everything yourself and handing it over to a traditional publisher. You invest in professional services, but you're not carrying the entire load. And on the back end, you're making a greater royalty. So for that CEO, a hybrid model made sense. It gave them control and speed while letting the professionals handle the heavy lifting. Now let's jump over, because we don't want to forget traditional publishing, because that could still work. If hybrid is the bridge, traditional is the full service highway. With traditional publishing, the publisher handles everything: editing, design, printing, distribution, even marketing support to some extent. They might do something, but it still will be on you as the author. But here's what you need to know. It does take time, often 18 to 24 months before your book is on the shelves. And for an author such as this, if they're planning to transfer out of their role within the 18 to 24 months or potentially a longer time frame, that could be a great route, because they can prepare everything that's needed and maybe even find a way to integrate it into what they're currently doing. Now, as I've mentioned before on this podcast, but it takes access. You usually need a literary agent who can get a book proposal in front of publishers. It does take a platform. Publishers want to see you have an audience or a proven way to sell books. But for the right author, though, traditional publisher provides unmatched credibility and reach, especially if your book is meant to open doors in a corporate, academic, or some type of global market. Here's the key takeaway if you're really deciding if self-publishing is an incredible option for you, and it is, or maybe you want a different route. So self-publishing works great when you want control, speed, and are willing to manage the process. But it's not for everyone. If your time and attention are already stretched thin, self-publishing can become a burden that steals your focus and leaves you with a book that you may not be proud of because you couldn't put the time and attention that you needed into it. And that's why I told this CEO that self-publishing was not right for this book. Their goals and the reality didn't align with what self-publishing required. Even if they had hired someone else to manage the process, eventually that person would have exited out and it would have fallen on them. Remember, if this is something that you're debating between, review these 5 signs around if self-publishing is right for you, or if you need to look at a different path and understand what it takes to go down that path. And remember, there's not necessarily a best path. There's a right path that's for you, your book, your goals, and for what you want to accomplish in the short term and long term as an author. It's about taking the time to really think about what is best for you. So thanks for listening to this episode of Your Path to Book Publishing. If this episode helped you clarify your publishing options, please share it with another authors who are making this decision. Join me next week where I dig into the 6 things you need to check before you hit publish on your book. So for today, go out there, keep writing, keep developing your book and your brand, and building out the marketing plan that's going to make your book successful and have the impact that you're seeking.